Hi everyone, this is a research to practice video prepared as part of an initiative of the Geo-Environmental Engineering Technical Committee of the ASCE Geo-Institute. This video is going to talk about coupling methane generation and biological settlement in municipal solid waste MSW landfills. This is prepared by Xunchang. I am an assistant professor at the Nanyang Technological University in Singapore. This video is going to show some of the key findings in this paper, published very recently on the Journal of Waste Management. More details can be found in this paper through the link shown below. MSW are often disposed of in landfills. In the landfills, MSW undergo very long-term processes, especially the biodegradation process, which takes very long time to complete. As researchers and engineers, we often want to monitor the long-term process of MSW in landfills for various reasons. For geotechnical engineers, one of the most important things is to measure the long-term settlement of the MSW in landfills. These long-term settlements are often caused by biological degradation of the MSW, so we also call these settlements biological settlements. On the other hand, environmental engineers want to measure the long-term generation and emission of methane from the degrading waste. That is to control the methane emission to the atmosphere because methane is a very strong greenhouse gas. On the other hand, if these methane can be collected, they can also be turned into energy for energy generation. So far, the biological settlements and methane generation from the MSW landfills are monitored separately. So my question here is that how can we connect and correlate those two long-term processes and to see if we can benefit from this correlation and coupling of those two independent processes. So what we did is to analyze the data from 35 large-scale laboratory column tests and 18 landfill cell measurements. After extracting the data from the available literature reporting either laboratory testing results or full-scale field measurements, we can do the following analysis. First, we plot the time-dependent methane generation curve as shown here to the top left. Then we can fit a first-order decay model to this methane generation curve and get a first-order rate coefficient K. Similarly, we can also plot the long-term settlement curve with time and then fit another first-order decay model to it. So we get another K rate coefficient. Then we can also plot and correlate the methane generation with the long-term settlement for each test. This type of data is time independent because we are plotting methane generation at a specific time with the corresponding long-term settlement. For this curve, as shown to the top right, we use a Gompertz model, Gompertz function, to fit the curve, and then we can get a third rate coefficient, as shown here. Another important parameter we need to calculate for each lab test or field measurement is the B0, which represents the initial percentage of biodegradable waste on a dry basis. More details can be found, of course, in the paper about the calculations and fittings. After fitting the data from each study, we can obtain the rate coefficients case for each study. We also organize and analyze the other relevant informations in each paper. Now we can make the following observations. As we can see here, there are two figures. The figure to the left is showing the relationship between rate coefficient K for first-order methane generation and the B0, which is the initial biodegradable waste. The figure to the right is showing the other rate coefficient K for first-order biological settlement and its relationship with B0. Essentially, the major observations are these two rate coefficients, first order rate coefficients, are functions of B0, the initial waste composition, WC, water content, scale of investigation, being it laboratory test or landfill cell measurements, and then the final factor, which is vertical stress, sigma V. Similarly, we plot the Gompertz rate coefficient with the B0 value in each study as shown in this figure here. There is a clear correlation between those two values. In addition to B0, sigma V, which is the vertical stress of the waste, is also affecting the value of the Gompertz rate coefficient. But the initial moisture content and the scale of investigation are not affecting the Gompertz rate coefficient. With this figure shown on this slide and the two previous figures shown in the previous slide, we can say that we have pretty high confidence in predicting the rate coefficient case, which describes the long-term methane generation and long-term biological settlement of the solid waste in landfills, using some of the initial conditions that we can readily measure and control in the landfills, including initial waste composition, initial moisture content, the scale of investigation, and also the vertical stress, which we can estimate readily, easily. Now let me introduce how to use the results and findings in this study to help predict the long-term methane generation of municipal solid waste. First, we need to go through a few steps of condition estimations. We need to measure the initial properties of the MSW, including the total mass and the percentage of biodegradable waste. Then we need to control or measure the biodegradation conditions, including initial moisture content, vertical stress, and scale of investigation. Then we determine empirically the correction factors for moisture content and the scale of investigation. The fourth step is to measure in the laboratory or estimate empirically biodegradation potentials of the MSW. This essentially includes the final methane generation potential, L0, and the final biological settlement value, sigma BF. The final step for condition estimation is to estimate the rate coefficients, which we just talked about. After these estimations, we obtain a series of parameters and rate coefficients that we can use to plug in to the prediction equations as shown to the right. Then we can achieve a priori prediction of the long-term methane generation from biodegrading municipal solid waste. I do want to emphasize that our approach is really straightforward and can be readily applied to real applications without much of the modeling and data regression, as well as any of the constitutive modeling. In this short video, I only present some of the highlights of this study. More details and calculations can be found in the full paper. I thank you for your time and attention. If you have any question, please feel free to contact me through the email address shown here. At NTU, I'm the leader of the DOTA 2 lab, which stands for the Debris of the Anthropocene to Resources Lab. More research to practice videos can be found in the link below.